let's go to the Falcons at 8. Ryan, you are not changing your mind here, sticking with Liberty's Malik Willis as the first quarterback off the board. Brady, this has been a lot of talk at HQ because Ryan's keeping him here. What do you think about it?
Well, Ryan was hearing a lot of the rumors and talk during the course of the combine. He had a number of shrimp cocktails while I was there with him, so I'm sure that might have persuaded Ryan to be looking at Malik Willis as the top guy. But here's the reality. Everyone talks about upside in the draft. That's what this is. Malik Willis has the most upside of any quarterback in this draft class. We saw the big arm on display while throwing. We've seen the athleticism. Now, he didn't test the 40, but I think if he did, he'd probably be somewhere around the 4.6 or sub 4.6 range. Well, hell, I guess when we're talking about this year's combine, he should have ran. He might have ran a 4.3 with the way that clock was working. But the truth of the matter is there's still some development to go. This offense is not as conducive to NFL style of play, and I think that's your only concern here is if you draft him here to Atlanta, it's great. He sits behind Matt Ryan. He learns the game. He then slides in a year later. If you have to put him in right away, and to be honest with you, if a team does draft him and they don't have a veteran like Matt Ryan, make him the guy from day one, give him as many reps as possible to get him acclimated to an NFL system, and then see what you have in him and understand you're going to go through some growing pains because he's still a young player. But I see why you did this, Ryan. I do think he's the guy with the most upside at the quarterback position in this draft class.
So that's what we're calling shrimp cocktails. Yeah, I had a lot of something in India. Maybe that's where I got the information from. But, I think it's interesting, Amanda, that Brady said last week on the podcast that he thinks you throw those quarterbacks in the right away, depending on the situation, because Malik Willis does need to sit, and that's why I had him going to Atlanta, because Matt Ryan's playing next year. And if that's the case, certainly Malik Willis would benefit from being on the bench. And I actually asked him that when we had him on set, whether he thought he might want to sit for a year behind a veteran or play. And obviously he said, I want to play right away. The thing is, and this is what I always say about Malik Willis, if there's a 25% chance you're getting something close to Josh Allen, 80% of Josh Allen, then you have to take him in round one, and whatever happens, happens. We just don't know if he's even going to be 25% of that because he has so much athleticism and just the lack of, he's very raw. So the lack of things that you like to see every day from your NFL quarterback haven't quite showed up consistently. But again, that's why the draft is a crapshoot. You have no idea how it's going to work out, and it's hard to pass on those physical tools when you see them on display, even though he struggled a lot last year at Liberty, for being honest, but you have to sort of project what that's going to look like at the next level, in much the same way the Bills were able to do with Josh Allen after struggling at times at Wyoming.
Finally, Kenny Pickett going to the Steelers at 20. Brady, this is somebody that you loved going to the Steelers earlier on. I texted you today. I said, you still like Kenny Pickett to Steelers? You said, sure. I need to know where that level of sure is right now.
Well, it depends if the Steelers are going to be the sweepstakes for Aaron Rodgers, because if that happens first, then I'm drafting Kenny Pickett here. So it's something to keep in mind to see what the Steelers do, looking for a potential trade of a veteran quarterback who's under contract, potentially the free agent market, which is all going to happen before the draft. So there's a couple things to keep monitoring as we move along here. But obviously Aaron Rodgers is going to make a decision soon. And if it's not Pittsburgh, that opens them up, obviously, to take a guy like Kenny Pickett, who they should know very well. He plays there at Heinz Field at the University of Pitt. He was one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific passer in college football this year. And I think he's the QB1 to me of this class. He puts on the best tape where you see him with the downfield accuracy, a sense for really in the zone concepts, where that football needs to go, timing, anticipation, and the ability to extend plays and make big plays down the field. All the things that you have to do at the next level, Kenny Pickett does it. Now the knock, the small hands. Guess what? He wears 2 gloves, and last time I checked, he wore those 2 gloves at the combine for throwing, and he looked just fine to me. Shouldn't be an issue, even though everyone wants to make a big deal about it.
We'll see if it's an issue, as you pointed out multiple times, in bad weather. But as of right now, let's put the hands, the small hands, to rest. That is changing this week. You have them going with Matt Corral. Explain all of this.
Look, they need offensive line help, and there's no two ways about it. And look, they appear to like Ryan Tannehill fine, and he's been mostly good in Tennessee, certainly better than what he was in Miami. They have the running back situation taken care of. They do have wide receivers who can certainly make plays for them. But if the offensive linemen they want are no longer available, and they don't want to reach for one, whether it's a Daniel Faalele or Bernard Raymond or Trevor Penning, why not take a quarterback? And I told you, Amanda, Matt Corral is my QB1, and he has been throughout the duration. I love the way he plays. I know the funkiness, if you will, of that Ole Miss offense and trying to translate that to the next level. I know Matt Corral takes a ton of hits, and he has to get better at that. But I think if you have a quarterback in the waiting, have Tannehill for one more year, and then perhaps move on from him, at least you have a backup plan. Because there had to be some frustrations toward the end of the year with how Tannehill was playing, especially in that playoff loss to the Bengals, where he threw some head-scratching interceptions towards the end of that game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's some frustration there. I think it's one of the reasons why it's rumored that, maybe this is a destination for Aaron Rodgers. So this team falls into another category, much like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hey, they're one of 3 teams that Rodgers is looking at if it's not the Packers. So you have to wait and see his decision then. Then after that, you maybe have a guy like Russell Wilson you're looking at if he wants to get out from the Seattle Seahawks and if they'd be willing to. So there's going to be some potential moves made this offseason by veteran quarterbacks who are under contract. So we have to figure out how that plays itself out first. Then I think you start looking into the draft. If they go with Corral, the interesting thing is not that he's a comp to Marcus Mariota, but it's kind of the situation that he reminds me of. Mariota came from more of a college-style system, up-tempo spread offense that never really translated to the NFL level, and he had a harder time, especially after his rookie year, really assimilating to the NFL. I worry about that for Matt Corral, but he would have a year to be able to sit and watch and wait behind a guy like Ryan Tannehill to learn from him and grow within an NFL system. So that's where I think there's some hope here, and that's where it makes some sense.
Okay. I was going to ask if there's anybody else that you like there, but would it just be Matt Corral if there was a quarterback there?
Well, if there's a quarterback, Sam Howell's the other guy that I really like. I actually like him better than Matt Corral in this instance. I think people are sleeping on him right now when you look at his skill set, his toughness, some things he did this season really carrying his team. So I think that would be the other quarterback in the conversation at the spot.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.